Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we have a very important poll out of the state of New Jersey for the 2025 governor's race, showing a very tight race between Democrat Mikie Sherrill and Republican Jack Ciattarelli. So this poll, which came out on Thursday, September 25th, was released by Emerson College Polling, and this one has been going around a lot on social media, as this poll has found that Mikie Sherrill, the Democrat, has 43% of the vote. And Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican, has also 43% of the vote. In a brief excerpt from the pollster, it said, "The first Emerson College General Election Survey of New Jersey's 2025 election for governor reveals a tightly contested race in the Garden State," said Spencer Kimball, the executive director of Emerson College Polling. And then it goes through the statistics of this, with young voters 18 to 29 breaking 56 to 18 for Sherrill over Ciattarelli. Still young, but older voters 60 to 28 for Sherrill, 40 to 49, 47 40, and the older you get, the more friendly it gets for Jack Ciattarelli. So this race in this poll is showing a very close competitive race at 43-43, with 3% saying they're supporting another candidate and 11% being undecided at this time. Now this poll is very big for a lot of reasons. The first being is thus far, this is the first poll that was not a partisan affiliated poll that shows a tied race. Now, it should be worth noting the only poll of all the New Jersey polls conducted thus far that had Jack Ciattarelli winning was the poll that came out back on Sunday, September 16th to 18th. It came out on Sunday online though, and this poll was sponsored by the Jack Ciattarelli for Governor campaign, and it showed a 1-point race for Ciattarelli over Sherrill at 46-45 with 9 points undecided. Now, in my past videos, I've said my rule of thumb for partisan polls that are affiliated with a campaign is I usually shift it about 5 points in the opposite direction of the pollster that or the candidate that the poll sponsored, because on average, that's usually how much the polls are off by. Emerson College, however, was one of the more accurate polls in 2024. Not the most accurate poll, but it was probably around the top 10 or so. And this poll is not affiliated by party, showing a tied race for Sherrill versus Ciattarelli. Now, it's important to talk about this poll with the context of the other polls as well, because despite this race being one of two governor's races up in 2025, when you really look at it, there hasn't been a ton of polling that's been conducted. This is the first poll from Emerson College. Quinnipiac, which you may have heard in 2024, just released its first poll in the race, and then some other local pollsters in New Jersey as well. But there's been 4 so far in the month of September. And they've shown that Quinnipiac, Sherrill was leading 49-41. The Jack Ciattarelli poll showed Ciattarelli up 46-45. Now this Emerson poll shows a tied race at 43-43. In a new poll that just came out from Yes Every Kid, a nonprofit education Lilly Foundation or PAC, I'm not too sure which it is specifically, but it shows Sherrill also leading 48-41. But these polls do actually have a lot in common. Aside from the one poll that showed Jack Ciattarelli leading, Mikie Sherrill is either winning or tied in 3 out of the 4 of them. The only one where that's not the case is the pollster campaign-affiliated one. It's also worth showing is despite being only about a month and like a week out from the election, there are still a lot of undecided voters in this race. This Emerson poll has 11% of respondents undecided. The Ciattarelli poll had 9% undecided. This Yes Every Kid poll, 10%. Quinnipiac, 6% undecided. So the undecided voters in this race still make up a large enough portion that they could heavily shift this race one way or the other. Now, that's going to be the main question for this race, but the numbers so far and the polling averages in the most recent polls do show a race that is getting narrower. And when you look at the numbers here, Real Clear Politics has Mikie Sherrill at 47.3, Jack Ciattarelli 40.8, overall a lead of 6.5%. But again, that other undecided number, 11.9%. Still enough to change which candidate could win this race. Decision Desk HQ, it's actually even closer. 46 to 42.4, Mikie Sherrill leads by 3.6. Race to the White House, 46.8 for Sherrill, 41.7 for Ciattarelli. Sherrill's up by 5.1. An average of these 3 polling aggregates shows Sherrill leading 46.7 to 41.6 to Ciattarelli, overall plus 5.1. The numbers in the last few weeks have shown a pretty consistent trend, which is this race is narrowing up. Now, at the same time, it also shows Mikie Sherrill continues to lead in this race, though she does lead by a smaller margin than before. And we can look at this as well with the context, if you want, of the 2021 New Jersey governor's race as well. We're going into the final few days of this race. The polling average showed Murphy, the governor, leading over Ciattarelli by about 8 points, with 6.8% undecided. Now, what ultimately happened on the election results was essentially most of the independent voters broke for Jack Ciattarelli. Ciattarelli ended up getting 48% of the vote. Phil Murphy got 51.2% of the vote. So a very competitive 3.2% win for Phil Murphy in New Jersey. And you saw Jack Ciattarelli do very well in a lot of very important counties in the state of New Jersey, including making some very notable gains. Winning Morris County by 11 points, winning Hunterdon by 18, losing Somerset by 4, almost winning Passaic, losing it for Ciattarelli by about 4 points, and Bergen County as well. These key areas in Essex, in Passaic, and in Bergen are going to be very key to watch in this year's governor's race, as I do believe that Mikie Sherrill's congressional district encompasses parts of these counties up here. So this could play a very important role in seeing what election turnout looks like in these three areas. Now, for 2021, the polling also in the final few days or so showed Phil Murphy leading by about 5-6 points or so in a lot of these polls. Research Co. was up 6. Trafalgar, which is a Republican-aligned pollster, showed Murphy winning by 4. You see Rutgers-Eagleton up by 8 for Murphy versus Jack Ciattarelli. Monmouth University 50-39. Now Emerson, obviously the poll just came out, showed about a 6-point race, 50-44 with 7% to go. Only poll that came out around this date of September 2025 was Stockton University, which showed a 9-point lead for Murphy versus Ciattarelli. So Emerson overall, even though they had Murphy leading by 6 points over Ciattarelli, if that trend continues, that'd be about a 3-point shift towards Ciattarelli. Well, based on that, there could be enough support for Ciattarelli to win if that was the only factor playing in this race when you compare it to their polling back in 2021. However, of course, we know that usually elections and polls don't often work that way. Polls are a very useful tool and give us a snapshot of the race, but as we learned with 2016, 2020, and 2024, they can sometimes be a little bit unreliable in these races. But for right now, what we're looking at is a very competitive race between Sherrill and Ciattarelli. Now, the only bit of pause I have on this poll, and this is not a criticism or to dampen the Republicans' hopes in this race, it's more of just a statistical fact, which is at 43-43, there's still 11% undecided, and at that number, both Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli are underperforming what the Democrat and Republican did, both in 2021, and Ciattarelli's only about a point higher than what the GOP did in 2017. So if you're confused what I mean by this, Murphy got 51.2, Ciattarelli got 48, about, 5 points more for Ciattarelli, and then about 8 points more for Phil Murphy, the Democrat. Now, even in 2017, which ended up being a big Democratic blowout win, Kim Godano only had 42.2%. Ciattarelli's only 1 point above her. Phil Murphy had 55.7%. If you want to round up to 56 or so on that one, that would be about 13 points higher. So this poll from Emerson, it certainly shows this race is very competitive and both candidates are capable of winning. But it also shows there's a large amount of undecided voters left out in this race. That 11% are going to decide whether Mikie Sherrill or Jack Ciattarelli ends up winning. So don't expect on election day for either Sherrill or Ciattarelli to get 43% in the race. A third-party candidate would have to be getting around 10% of the vote or so to see something like this actually end up happening, which in all likelihood is not going to be the case. So that's the only little bit of a caveat I have on this race. But the actual numbers show a very tight contest with a lot of undecided voters left, looking at about a month left in this campaign. As for what this means right now, I think the trend is certainly that this race is narrowing up, but based on the amount of polls we've had beforehand and the poll immediately after, and given that 2025 is going to be governor elections taking place in a year that's supposed to be the anti-incumbent in the White House, does usually well. In this case, President Trump is the Republican president. Usually the Democrats are on track to do better in this election than the Republicans would. That being said, Mikie Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli is proving to be a very competitive election, so much so that I'm actually shifting my rankings in this race. Where before I had both Virginia and New Jersey going in the likely Democratic category, I'm now shifting it to lean Democratic, meaning I have it going under 5 points for the Democrats, but more than 1 point for the Democrats. Right now I have it around a 4 and a 4.5 point win for the Democrats at this current point in time. I think there are a lot of undecided voters out there, And similarly, what we saw in New Jersey in 2024 when Kamala Harris got 51.8, Donald Trump got 45.9, a lot of independents in New Jersey ended up breaking for Donald Trump that was not expected to do so. So much so that Morris County voted by 2.7% for Trump. Passaic County actually voted red for Trump over Harris, and Bergen was 3.4% for Harris over Trump. These are going to be some key areas to watch for, and I think if Jack Sherrill is running a race in New Jersey, that it's on the governor level, so a lot of these independent voters would actually probably be more likely to vote for a Republican at the governor level than a national race at the presidential level. I think we're going to see potentially an even closer matchup than what we saw in 2024, where Harris ended up winning by 5.9%. Now, obviously, I'll be doing videos and keeping updated on this race, because depending how the next month goes, this could totally shift the rankings for New Jersey. But for right now, I'm having New Jersey in the lean Democratic category in this very pivotal governor race. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you did, leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts on this poll, on this video, on the New Jersey governor's race, and all of that. Make sure to leave it down in the comment section below. Again, also make sure to hit like and subscribe, as I post a new video every single day on the latest election news and predictions and such that are going on. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a future video.